Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. One of the most memorable and meme-worthy characters in animation, Dr. D is an evil scientist from the hit TV show Phineas and Ferb. If I had a nickel for every time I brought him up in a video, well, I'd lose track of the amount of nickels I have. I think it's 3 nickels now? 4 including this video? With Season 5 of Phineas and Ferb expected to release this summer, there's a running gag I hope they continue: Doofenshmirtz's emotionally scarring backstories. Throughout the original series, Heinz justifies a lot of his schemes through his traumatic past, but his backstories are all over the place. They are not shown in order, so that's what we're doing today. Now, I know that it's been done before, but I have a different take on the order of events by using a clue that nobody else seems to have picked up on: his clothes. Across his backstories, he wears only a handful of different outfits. Now, normally this would not be weird, except his family is notoriously poor. You think a child in a poor backwater country would have multiple outfits ready to go? No. They'd wear one outfit until they literally could not anymore, be it due to growing out of it or the clothes becoming too worn down over time. So join us today as we piece together the life of Heinz Doofenshmirtz. Obviously, we need to start from the beginning. The very beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But before creation itself, there were 6 singularities. Then the universe exploded into existence, and the remnants of these systems were forged into concentrated ingots, infinity stones. There was also only the ether and the keepers. Among them were 2 beings who would later be known by many names. One would be known as Dr. Monty, the other as the Shadow Man. What? Too far back? Alright, I guess we'll skip ahead a smidge. The year was 1961. Heinz Doofenshmirtz was born, but neither of his parents bothered to show up, which implies some sort of miracle going on, maybe some sort of immaculate birth, but that's a theory for another time. For his 5th birthday, he threw his own birthday party at Timu Chuck E. Cheese, and was swarmed by bats on his way home since he left the cake uncovered. Now, since he's wearing this blue and yellow outfit with a blue bow tie at age 5, it was also around this time when Big Black Boots Boris began bullying Heinz by kicking sand in his face. Also, Heinz is building an inator out of sand, which just shows how he would always think big and have a wild imagination despite the blatant neglect and trauma. At one point, Heinz and his mother go to the local public pool, but he is not allowed to swim, despite being in swimwear. What was the point of going to the pool then? Unless it was some abuse tactic, I suppose, like getting his hopes up just to tear them down again. Anyway, finally the day comes for Heinz to jump off the high dive at the Gimmelstump Public Wetness Maker, where you would be considered a man if you jumped. Unfortunately for Heinz, he was too scared and therefore labeled a schnitzel and ostracized by the public. At this point, his father declares that he has no son, and his parents begin to wear paper bags over their heads out of shame. Now we see Heinz wearing his black and white outfit that he's wearing in most of the backstories. I think this is the first instance in the timeline where he wears this outfit. Due to his failure on the high dive, his family disowns him soon after, and Heinz goes on to nest with the local ocelots. Life surely isn't good, but certainly isn't bad either. At least Heinz is with a mother who feeds him. However, without the means to a shower, and from eating raw animals, the smell of pork begins to linger wherever Heinz may be. So he needs money to presumably afford access to water and some way to shower, and begins taking up odd jobs, like learning the ways of pretzel making, and working at the carnival as the ball at the dunk tank. With the shower taken care of and a little extra money in tow, Heinz buys a balloon, which becomes his best friend, Balloony. This is where Heinz develops his first on-screen successful invention, his lifelong lasting spray, which, after drawing a face on the balloon, he sprays the balloon, and Balloony thus persists long past the average lifespan of a normal helium balloon. And soon after, his family... what's the opposite of disown? Re-own, I guess? So his parents re-own him, and all seems well until their lawn gnome gets repossessed, and Heinz is forced to stand in place of the gnome. One fateful night, Balloony starts floating away, and since he was ordered not to move, Heinz cannot reach out to save his only friend. However many days or weeks pass, Heinz finds companionship only through the moon and his neighbor Kenny. Until one day, when after winning a game of poke the goosum with a stick, his father returns home with a puppy. The puppy is named Only Son, and goes on to make Mr. Doofenshmirtz proud. Things do begin looking up for Heinz, though. After being relieved of gnome duties, Heinz is sitting with his pet cockroach and enjoying his favorite ice cream, when that scientific inspiration hits once more, and Heinz wonders if he can combine the two, since they're his two favorite things. This inspiration leads to the creation of his first innator, and 1 year later, his even bigger innator. But once again, whenever Heinz seems happy and content, something is always there to put him back in his place. His parents announce they're having another baby, and his mother begins making a load of dresses as they're expecting a girl. However, they have a boy, Roger, instead. And since they were now out of fabric, Heinz is forced to wear the dresses over the next year. A few years pass, and Roger is able to read and write. Heinz saves up his allowance for a year and spends it on a claw machine where he wins a bear. He gives his mother the bear, who then turns around and gives it to Roger. Roger then signs the bear and their mother, thus claiming both as his own and shutting Heinz out of the family dynamic. Heinz hits a growth spurt in the coming years and moves on to another outfit, this time a green outfit with an orange bow tie. Heinz realizes the way to his mother's heart is through kickball, but he lacks coordination and Roger is just natural at it. As time passes, Heinz tries to find his own way in life, but still aims to win over his parents' affection. In 7th grade, he fails at being a magician, and in his teen years, he devotes his life to hand shadows, where he gets upstaged by Huge Hands Hans. Heinz goes on to try finding his place in fine arts and poetry, but his masterpiece is ruined and his poetry is garbage. Heinz tries to win his mother's affection through other sports as well, such as rugby, soccer, football, kick the can, and even martial arts, but is still lacking the necessary coordination. He does manage to find his passion in evil science, though, taking classes and yearning to impress his professor. Finally, his parents send him to the store, but in reality, trick him into boarding a boat to America. And we know the story from there. Heinz attempts dating, even scoring a date with Linda, but nothing seems to work until he meets Charlene. They hit it off, have a daughter, and then inevitably get divorced. With his tight budget, Heinz begins looking for a permanent residence, and finally finds the penthouse of the building we all know and love. He does some acting in commercials with live wombats to fund his early innators, until Charlene decides to give him regular alimony checks. And before he knew it, he had a nemesis, a match made in heaven. And that is my timeline of Doofenshmirtz's emotionally scarring backstories. At least, that makes the most sense to me. I did not count the minor inconveniences, like when Heinz attempts to pick up a sandwich and they can't pronounce his name correctly, for example, as that is not something that affected his youth and development. If I did accidentally leave out any backstories though, let me know. Plus, if they continue the backstories in Season 5, I'll make an updated video as well. But leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.